Welcome to Grounds Patrol, a Newgrounds community podcast. I am Will Comer, I'm your host, and between last episode and this episode, we had Pico Day, which is very exciting. I'm sorry that I didn't get to put anything out for it, but congratulations to everybody that got to put art out for Pico Day. Congratulations to those who won money from it, incredible. And to those of you who went to the live event, I'm very happy to see you had an amazing time and an amazing amount of alcohol. And just a little jealous I didn't get to go. Just a little bit. And if you are one of those people who's a little tired of hearing about Pico Day, then good news for you. This episode is not really going to be related to it, because this is coming out on May 15th, a full 4 days after. So this episode instead is going to be a new format. It's something I've been wanting to try. But before that, a couple little bits of Grounds Patrol news. The first one is something I'm really excited to announce. Grounds Patrol is now available on all podcasting platforms. Yes, that's right. Last episode I got to announce that we were on Spotify. This time it's all of the things. I'm talking Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spreaker, Stitcher, CastBox, all of those other weird Android ones. And so wherever you get your podcast, if you listen to podcasts at all, you can now subscribe to Grounds Patrol on those programs. I really feel like that helps Grounds Patrol have legitimacy among the not just Newgrounds content world, but also the podcast world. I feel like a podcaster now. I can call my dad and say, hey, go look on your Apple Podcast app. Grounds Patrol's on it. I'm just a geeking out little kid when it comes to podcast stuff. I'm like, yay, new toys, new things. Anyway, the other bit of announcement is that Grounds Patrol is moving away from the bi-monthly schedule. Instead, it's going to a semi-weekly schedule, and that doesn't sound like a big change, but it kind of is, because it's going to be every other Wednesday. Coincidentally, this was already going to come out on a Wednesday on the 15th. The next episode after this is going to be the 29th, and so on and so on and so on. This is mostly just so I can keep it more on track with my own schedule, to be honest, and it's good for you guys because it means you get to have slightly more Grounds Patrol. So there's that. This episode is what I'm calling a roundtable episode. It's the first of the roundtable series, and it's a format where multiple artists get to come together and talk about Newgrounds and talk about what they do and sort of pick each other's brain. I was excited to try this format both to get more people on the show at once and also to have a different style. So it's not just me picking people's brain, it's people picking each other's brains. And so you already saw the artist in the title, but I'll tell you again, they are Moawling, who is an amazing pixel artist who you might actually recognize because she did the last Newgrounds site skin for Pixel Day. Second is Hyptosis, who not only does a lot of great art, but also does a lot of great game content, making this sort of a half art, half games roundtable. Third is YakovlevArt, who does a lot of concept art for video games. All three of these artists are very successful on the art portal, which is kind of why I wanted to pick their brain, because is the phrase picking brains getting gross yet? Anyway, asking questions because I don't know much about the art portal myself. Two quick disclaimers. One, it is a 4-way Discord call, so there might be occasional little hiccups in the audio quality. I apologize for that. For the most part, don't worry, it's going to be fine and fun to listen to. Number two, I realized after I recorded that I kind of forgot to get a good take of everybody saying who they are. Oops. So I'm going to tell you that first up talking is YakovlevArt, followed by moawling second, and it's going to be Hyptosis third. Just so you know whose voice belongs to who, alright? That's all I'm going to say about it. Enjoy!
Yeah, so I don't know what it is actually. I don't think it's really about flash animations anymore as much as it used to be, but I don't know what what it's trying to be besides just a multimedia hub. I guess that's why I've never felt a strong sense of community, because it doesn't feel like really a social media site.
So my relationship with Newgrounds, the reason why I kind of prioritize it before other platforms, like you've mentioned before, it's very distinct from other social media. And I'm very critical of the social economy that other social media sites generate. Social interactions are incentivized by, likes and comments, and there's very little transparency in how these interactions are weighted, right? And of course, these algorithms that we as creators we're very unaware of like what goes into making our content visible, other than like how these interactions are prioritized in like a social media feed. The great thing about Newgrounds is that all of these interactions are very immediate, very transparent, and therefore genuine to me. You know who is front paging your stuff. There's an explicit like cast of like art mods, and you know who each one is. You can message any one of them at any time. They're very well within reach. And I feel like because of that, I never have to worry about like what attention my art is getting, you know, and
Yeah.
all of that just feels more viable. I do post on Twitter because the game development community is there, or I'm in game development. I don't know if I made that clear yet. So it's good for that. But like, honestly, some of my favorite jobs, like my favorite contracts and my favorite like professional and creative engagements have been through Newgrounds.
I get that, and I haven't really thought about that. Normal social media, you're kind of putting your art into just a big machine that's going to spit it out to random people. You really have no power over the outreach of it.
Right.
I haven't thought about that. Whereas with Newgrounds, you're exactly right. You're posting it, and you can see who's seeing it and who's reviewing it and who is being responsible for it being shown to other people. It's way more, it's almost like in this day and age, it's almost like anti-social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And even like your credibility is something that is weighted through Newgrounds and what factors go into what.
So how do you find out who the mods are, though?
There's a general list of mods somewhere on the site, I believe, right? Like,
yeah, on the forums, at least it's on the bottom. I think you can see who the mods are for each forum and who the total list is. By the way, you were talking about not knowing quite where the Newgrounds community lives. A lot of that's on the forums, and that can be confusing for people who aren't used to forums. I will totally give you that.
Yeah.
Even now, there's a large part of the community I feel like I don't really have access to because I'm not really in with internet forums, like the way it's structured, the way it used to be. It used to be the entire internet community everywhere was just based on these, BBS forums, and that's kind of what Newgrounds is.
Right.
And that's not what people are used to talking on anymore, so.
Yeah, it's also very interesting because as far as a lot of social functions go, in the landscape of like the internet in general, all of these functions are becoming fragmented across different platforms. A lot of the Newgrounds community takes place on the forums for sure, but they're also taking place on like Discord now primarily. A good example of that is like the Smash collab and the Dragon Ball collab was like all organized through Discord.
That's right. And there's a community on this Discord, the Grounds Patrol Discord. A lot of the Newgrounds communities are actually on Discord, or it used to be IRC chat. I remember a lot of my Newgrounds life was not on Newgrounds itself. It was on a chat room with like 10 of my best friends, and we would all, riot against the other IRC chat room with the people we hated.
Do you guys feel like you would ever want Newgrounds to become like as big as like some of the other social media sites or like some of the other news aggregator sites? Or do you want it to stay kind of like small and hidden forever?
Yes and no, but I'm also interested in hearing how Hyptosis uses the site, if that's all right.
Yeah.
I mostly just use it out of a sense of loyalty now, I think, because I joined around 2008, I think, and I made some games, and they got pretty popular.
Sure.
And I found an audience, I guess, and enjoyed like 5 or 6 years of success, maybe longer, up until like 2013, I guess. And then it kind of started to decline. I got a lot of letters from like teenagers who couldn't afford to play games, and they played my games because mine were free.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I really enjoyed getting those. I saved all of them. I have like a couple of hundred now, I think.
That's wonderful.
And of course, they're all like adults now,
Dude, that's awesome.
Hyptosis, you actually totally inspired me to get into game development. Like, I grew up playing your games.
Really?
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's cool.
The first time you ever like commented or messaged me, like I just like lost it. I was like, oh my God.
Oh,
really?
You're like,
I love your work.
Thank you.
Moawling, what was the first of his games you played? Do you remember? Or the biggest one?
Alice is Dead. that entire series. I also I apologize. I can't remember the name of the game exactly, but there was this other game that you made where it was just kind of like a click quest, and you would kind of negotiate the needs of these different spirits and give them things, right?
Let's see, was it Rune Seekers?
Yes,
Is that it?
yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. I was learning how to program an action script on those games. I didn't actually program Alice is Dead. I just did the art and helped Mike. We both kind of wrote it at the same time, and he programmed it. And we made the first Alice is Dead in like 2 days, just on a weekend for fun.
Oh my God.
It was such a hit that after that we were like, well, we actually have to try on the sequels.
I played that too. That game was wild. I remember it pretty vividly.
Yeah, we would just stay up late and we'd be working on it, and then we'd sort of hit like a wall, and we'd talk about what weird thing can we do, and we'd sort of joke about it, and then finally decide on it and move on. I miss it a lot.
I know.
Yeah.
Like some of those jump scares and like a couple of your click and point adventure games, like they like stick with me. Like I
always tried to be smart about jump scares because they can be really cheap.
Yeah, I think it's easy for horror as a genre to be a kind of a cheap medium, but when it's executed very deliberately, it pays off so well.
So when you say that you are nowadays you serve Newgrounds mostly out of loyalty, what place do you feel like you primarily like to put your stuff?
Well, I mean, I put it on Newgrounds first. I do, and then I sort of use, since Newgrounds has it really nice on your profile page where you can link up to all your other social media. I use it as sort of a launch pad I look there and see where I need to post at. I have my Instagram and my Twitter and everything there, and I just click on them one by one and post, cross post. But I don't really have a community anymore, I don't think. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I've mostly been working for other people and not doing my own stuff anymore, so that's that, I guess.
But I mean, between the work you're doing for other people, you're finding ways to do your own stuff here and there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't made a game since 2015 maybe, and I put it on Steam. I wasn't able to make it work in a web browser.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's so much negativity when you make a game, like you'll get 200 negative comments, and then you'll get one that really touches you. Yeah. And people are so demanding, and I think maybe I'm just a little happier just doing the art and letting other people handle all the other stuff now.
No kidding. What is it about games? I find that too. People have an especially raw nerve when it comes to games. Like they are very up for telling you exactly why it annoyed them.
Yeah, and it's often something minor, and also like towards the end, everyone seemed to, well, not everyone, but lots of people seem to think I was like a company. And they'd be like, you guys need to do this and you guys need to do that. And I'm like, I'm just one person. And they're like, no, that's bull.
Damn.
And it just kind of put me in a negative place.
I think it has a lot to do with the format of games, like pressing that the players have agency. And the feeling of agency is so built on immersion. Any disruption of that, like really fundamentally just like screws with an audience or a consumer's like sense of like how they engage with media, right? And I think that that's further informed by the fact that game development is like such a broad and diverse kind of community at this point, that it's really hard for general consumers to kind of know how games are produced and things like that. Like Hyptosis mentioned, like people assume that he was like this whole like studio, right? That's definitely something I've experienced, and I'm sure like many different artists like experience that kind of misconception, right? I'm sure that both Will and you, Yakovlev, sorry.
You can just call me Mike.
Mike?
Yeah, you can just call me Mike. It's my name.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah.
That works.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike and I used to talk about that. And Mike would tell me, he's like, look, the reason they're getting emotional about it is because they actually care about it. And I stood back and looked at it, and I was like, I guess he's right. Like, the ending that we did in Alice is Dead 3, we got a lot of flack about that. And but we did what we wanted to do. And then he's like, well, they're mad because they cared, so technically we still won. And I was like, I guess you're right.
I wonder if that's how BioWare feels about Mass Effect 3 after all these years.
Yeah. Well, I actually talked to Mike about that exactly, because me and him both played Mass Effect.
Not me.
Different Mike.
Yeah, sorry. Impending Riot, I think is his name
Got it.
on Newgrounds. And he got me into Newgrounds basically, and we started making games together, and we made Alice is Dead together. Anyway, he and I were talking about Mass Effect 3 and how like we're all so upset because we cared so much. And that's pretty cool, really. Even if no one was happy with the ending.
Yeah, it's a flattering problem to have, I guess, at best, because that means that people were invested in what you were making.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they got invested and then felt like you slighted them in some way. But still, along the way, the fact that they got so invested in your art means that it was worth being invested in.
And I try to always remember that, like in all of these cases, when I consume, a game or a movie or something, if stuff doesn't go my way or I don't really like it or it wasn't really that good, but somebody worked really hard on it, and there's a very good chance that they didn't mess it up or upset you intentionally.
Right.
Yeah, so I always try to remember that when I see something that you can tell somebody worked really hard on this. Okay, it wasn't that great, or I didn't enjoy it that much, but they really busted their ass on it. So I just try to always remember that and remind other people of that as well.
Yeah, I think being aware of the creative process really allows you to be more appreciative of content.
Yeah.
It's also, again, praising Newgrounds is like a lot of creators share their process very openly on the site, and that makes it easier for me to appreciate their work.
Yeah. There's less of a distance between the creators and the viewers and the audience. Everybody kind of exists on the same playing field, and it feels like when you are a fan of a creator on Newgrounds, it feels like you get a little bit of a window into their life, because they're not just posting their art, they're doing their blog posts usually and, linking to different things. It's kind of an intimate relationship between a creator and an audience.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's kind of what Hyptosis, I think, was saying, like feeling like a certain loyalty to the community here. I'm the same way. Like, it definitely feels a little bit more intimate in a weird way, and it feels a little bit more like low key and quiet and a little bit more like unknown. And it's funny because a lot of like music producers and stuff that I follow, I already used to follow like back in the day, have like blown up already. And like it's funny, like still going back and listening to their stuff on Newgrounds, like, dude, like now this person is like, big deal and stuff, and like they still have music on Newgrounds. Like that's crazy. Like you can still listen to their really. I was kind of doing that for. I don't know if you guys do that. If you go back and like look at your very early likes and follows and stuff of people, and just like, where are they now? Like, what are they doing now? Oh, this person like doesn't do like art or music anymore at all. Like they've completely moved on from that. But at one point, they were like, the shit on Newgrounds, and like most people probably don't even know this, or some people succeeded and moved to LA and now work as animators or work as DJs and things like that. It's really cool, I think.
Yeah, or they're Soulja Boy and they are now Soulja Boy.
You mentioned before, low-key is a really good way to put it. I already mentioned before how I'm very critical of how other social media platforms like incentivize certain interactions. I feel like sites like Twitter and Facebook, they very much incentivize escalation, right? Which is why when drama happens on those platforms, like you see it right away.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily something that happens on Newgrounds. Newgrounds kind of rewards system is intrinsic, and it's intrinsic to the creative process.
Absolutely. By the way, Mike, you were asking earlier if we would like it if Newgrounds was as big and on par with the other websites.
I kind of want to like rephrase now. Like, okay, so do you want Newgrounds to be more successful than it is now?
Yeah, I would want both. I would like the site to be more successful and all the people working on it to make more money and all that, but I would like it to continue feeling sort of like it has always felt for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, format informs content and the way that other sites are set up. Sorry, I keep hammering this point, but like it really is just like why I value Newgrounds.
It's a good point.
You're passionate about it.
I really do believe that you can have both. Even when Newgrounds was very popular, and and creators were getting more slices of revenue, all of that, like you still had those tight communities. And that's just because, again, like the site is structured to incentivize more genuine interaction.
Yes. My answer to this is absolutely. I would love it if Newgrounds was big and on par with the other website. If an artist looked to the internet to post their stuff and they considered Newgrounds right there alongside Reddit and Twitter and everything else, that would be my dream. In fact, that's kind of part of why I do this podcast. Outreach equals growth for me.
Yeah, I always tried to do my little part too. Like when I would make games, I would always put, because I knew the games were going to sort of spread all over on the internet whether I wanted them to or not. So I would intentionally put a big button back to Newgrounds inside the game.
Absolutely.
Newgrounds watermark in the middle of the screen the whole time.
Yeah, I was just always kind of loyal to, like I knew Newgrounds was going to be something different whenever I first joined, and I think it was in like 2010. I was working on something and I had a programming issue I couldn't figure out. I'm not the best programmer, and Tom
I feel that.
yeah, Tom sent me a message suggesting how I could fix it, and I was like, the owner of the site is telling me how to fix my programmer issue.
I really do think that Newgrounds, if it grows and gets more people, but if it is still able to keep a version of the system it has right now with the incentives, the clear incentives, and the, mostly human-based content growth, it would feel fine. I don't think it would feel as anonymous as Twitter and Facebook do. I think just in the system it is, I would like the system to be more streamlined, as I talk about every single time and microphone is in front of my face, but I think the system is going to be the reason that if it does grow to be, the size of everything else, it can be a really, really nice contrast.
I've always thought about like what could make Newgrounds like bigger and better. Like it's obviously like Tom and his team are constantly working on things to make it like more streamlined and more modern. They've like given the whole site like a facelift. But like I always think like what could they do to like actually make it like more, I guess, open to the general public, but then that might take away from like the kind of the unique community aspect of it. Like I feel like if they really open up in any big major direction, it would like you're gonna have some people who are not happy with the site. Yeah. Like, oh, it's selling out and shit like that.
Well, let's play it this way. To all of you guys, what would be one or two things that Newgrounds could change to make it more convenient for you guys as an artist?
I'll go last.
I always thought that they should include webcomics somehow. And I've actually talked to Tom about it a bunch of times, and he thinks it's a great idea, but it always gets put on the back burner because there's so much to do, Yeah. But I always thought that would be kind of a cool way to bring in some traffic, was if they had a really simple interface where you just upload your newest page and it automatically sorts it and puts it where it needs to be, and then the readers can click forward and back easily.
It's a great idea. It almost feels like a bit of what the art portal is doing now. How do you guys feel about the multiple art posts on a post thing?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know that I've really looked at that.
Doesn't it let you post multiple pieces of art on one art project? Like you can click on a piece of art and there's two things in it?
Oh.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. I know ArtStation does that, and that's a pretty cool feature they have.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be a bad idea if they don't have it.
Well, maybe I'll go and make sure that this is something before I talk about something that doesn't exist. But I felt like that was a thing.
No, I thought
I'm going and trying to look right now.
Yeah. While we're figuring that out, Moawling, you still have your art as the Newgrounds site skin.
Dude, I didn't know that was you. That's amazing. I love that stuff.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I've mentioned before, I've got some of my favorite creative opportunities through Newgrounds. So this year for Pixel Day, I initially was just commissioned to do the animated GIF promo thing that like rests on the front page. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I did the one with the tank man on the subway. The thing about Pixel Day and all of the promotional work that comes with that, and in general, this speaks to kind of like what Tom's intents are for the site, as well as that he tries very much to look, specifically for Pixel Day, tries to look outside of the site to kind of bring more people in. Relates back to your previous question about like what has the site done to kind of accommodate new people and introduce them to the site. Unfortunately, this year, a lot of the people he looked into, I believe, weren't really able to make the deadline. So I got to make the background this year, which was really
That's
fun.
awesome. I just love cityscape, so that's like all me right there.
And the color choices are killer. They're really good.
And like that twisted perspective, that's perfect. It's like perfect for the wallpaper too.
I don't think a lot of people realize how hard pixel art is. Like, there's so many little tricks and stuff. I'm like, I would say I'm like medium at it. I can do it, but I'm slow and I don't enjoy it. And other people, some present company included, are so good at it.
Your work is like great though. Like some of your tile sets, like I still study those. I'm just like, tile sets.
And that's pretty much all I do now. I've been reskinning other people's games, and I've been encouraging people to do it. They're like, I want to make a game. Will you do the art for it? I get that a lot, like a whole lot. And I tell them no, but if you make a game with some placeholder art and you finish it, then I'll make the art for it.
Oh, that's actually a good thing to say.
Yeah, it's panned out a few times, and it's pretty cool. Usually it doesn't, but that way I don't waste any of my time making art and then end up giving it away online for free or something.
Moawling, how did you get into pixel art? I mean, I know that's a long story probably, but why that as opposed to illustration or something else?
So I do have a traditional background in painting. I would say also in sculpture. The physicality of material is like so important to how I understand how to work with it that I'm really bad at digital mediums. So I have a form of visual agnosia, which makes it really hard for me to understand what's going on a screen. So I can't draw, like do a lot of digital art. Pixel art kind of translates to a lot of processes I'm familiar with. And it really feels like you're like very meticulously like building something up and sculpting something through like a very specific process. And like Hyptosis mentioned, there are like so many different kinds of like tricks and like illusions that you kind of like learn to manifest through the media.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's fascinating. I never thought about it like that before.
Like, look at the edges of so you can look at her work. Look at the edges of it, and you can see just sometimes the pixels change color, and when you kind of stand back and look at it, it looks differently. There's a lot of tricks to it. It's really impressive.
Man, it's times like this I really feel like art school didn't teach me enough. Like, I feel like I should know more about this. Talking about like color relationships and how like if you put the color gray next to green, it's going to look different than if the same gray was next to red or blue or yellow.
Way more about color theory through pixels than I did through my painting background.
No, I did too. Totally. I learned so much more about color and pixel art than I did from painting.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever done pixel art. I don't even know what you use to make it.
MS Paint.
Really? That's what everyone uses?
Yeah, I don't use MS Paint anymore, but basically, yeah, that's what I started out on.
What do you use now?
Oh man, I use a program called Fire Alpaca. I don't recommend it for pixel art because the color picker is weird and because like color limitations are so important to the medium.
Fire Alpaca?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
It's like a free version of Paint Tool Sci. Any program any digital program where you can turn the anti-aliasing off, you can use for pixel art.
Sure. So Photoshop counts for that.
Right.
I know a lot of people use, what's it called? Ace Sprite? ASC?
Yeah, I was
Sprite?
about to suggest that. Yeah, I got it. I actually just got that not too long ago, and I'm really impressed with it. I like it a lot.
It's so good. Sprite, Pixel Edit, and Pixel has like a Y in it. Also has like a live tile editing feature, which is fantastic. Like, it's incredible. There are basically so many great programs specifically for pixel art, and I use none of them. So don't.
I'm the same way. I do like 90% of my pixel work in Photoshop.
I'll be honest, I love pixel art and I have a deep, deep respect for it. And I one day will put in more time and actually get good at it. The best and worst thing that happened to me in the last couple of years is I found techniques for faking it, and I use that in my stuff nowadays. And I will be very upfront about it. If anybody says the art is nice, I'll be like, it's not pixel art. If you like pixel art, here are people that do really good pixel art.
Oh no, you're gatekeeping pixel art.
Absolutely.
Let's be real. It's like, it's fake. It's all tricks and
I
illusions.
do a lot of fake pixel art too. Like I'll do a lot of paintings and then reduce the colors and then adjust and then reduce and adjust and stuff like that to try to work faster.
I mean, that's art.
Yeah, I don't limit my colors like real pixel artists do.
Right.
And I use a lot of layers and stuff. Even though, I mean, I guess it's still technically pixel art when you look at it up close, but mine will have 2,000 colors.
I mean, I think that's like modern day, like most artists nowadays. It's like
I do it strictly for speed though. Is because like I'm always, I always tell people I can get stuff done fast, and I sort of have a reputation for getting things done fast, so I have to keep that up. So that's my excuse for not doing it right.
No, I mean I don't mean it like that's not an excuse. I just mean like that's like such a common practice. I think that's valid as pixel art. Like that process has been used for like the early Street Fighter games and all of that. Like it's real. Like it's a real technique, and I think it's valid.
Like in Photoshop, I'll use a hard-edged brush, but I won't use the pencil brush. I'll actually use the paintbrush so that you still have pressure sensitivity, and I'll work zoomed in and work just like it's pixel art. But sometimes you'll get a little bleed on the left and right of the of the pixels you're working on or whatever. And I'll work on layers, and then I can trim those layers up before I flatten, and still kind of make it look pixely.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, like, I feel like with modern day artwork or just modern day digital artwork, and it seems like it's going in that direction further and further, especially if you're doing work for like under like constraints, if you're like freelancing or if you're doing like concept art for a video game or something. Like, it seems that like some artists are not like as open to admit that they take shortcuts. And then when they finally do, other artists are like, yeah, dude, you're fine. Like I photo bash. Like I paint. I don't do pixel in the way like it's traditionally done or something like that. And then like I feel like the only people who are criticizing the people who aren't doing it like the strict like Renaissance way or whatever are like the people who aren't even artists.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, like you didn't draw that figure like from your head like completely, like how you're not a real artist. And like, oh, you're using layers in pixel art, you're not a pixel artist. Like, dude, nobody is doing it like that anymore.
Yeah, the professionals will just say, yeah, you got it done. In my experience.
You shipped it.
Can I say though that like the pixel art community is like really prescriptivist? Like there's
I've never fit in with pixel art groups. I just look at their stuff from a distance, and whenever I would join the chat rooms and stuff, I was always an outsider. I don't know why.
There's this gang of like rascally codgers like online that like dominated pixel art forums from like forever ago. And
when you say pixel art forums, sorry to interrupt, but are you talking about pixelation? Because I remember going on that as a kid, and people would roast you if they saw that you were doing any technique.
They're still around. They're still around. There are these like I remember just the other day like my one of my like pixel art friends was just talking about like he was like yeah, I still use MS Paint, and everyone just reacted just like completely like outraged, and they're like, you are compromising your workflow, like like all these like things, and it's just kind of like, oh geez, no, you just leave them alone.
Talk about art with so many self-imposed rules, and not that self-imposed rules are bad for art, but I just remember being part of that as a younger kid and being like, how many rules do you want to make here? I mean, you got to have an art piece at the end of the day. You can't just have rules for everything.
Right. I mean, and there's a lot to like why that happens, right? It's because like pixel art as a medium, like is defined by limitations, exists in a very specific period of like time, and is informed by the limitations of the technology at that time. And like the tenements of like prescriptivism, right? Like have a lot to do with like preservation. And for people to kind of preserve those rules is to kind of preserve the integrity of that history, right? Which is like, yes, there's definitely a time and a place for that. But then in everywhere else, it sucks so hard. Like,
yeah.
My background is like in digital art, so I do a lot of artwork for like just a lot of freelance artwork for like games, films, and stuff like that. And like I work as a concept artist now for like a game project, and like in the end, like nobody gives a shit. Like because when you're doing the artwork for, can I cuss? I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
like when you're doing artwork specifically for like if you're doing work for a client and you're like, hey, I'm gonna probably photo bash or whatever, like they're like, I don't care, like as long as it looks cool, like I don't care what you do. So then you can do that and you get paid and then you post it online and then somebody's like, there looks like a photo texture in there, like you didn't actually paint the pixels there. You're like, okay, like I don't even know what to say to people like that. Like I don't think those people actually care to critique your artwork and like try to make you better. They're just like automatically like imposing these weird like gatekeeping rules on how you should do art, which I don't know, it's like never did it for them.
I think a lot of people are really just proud of sounding smart, and they're proud to be the one that got to nitpick your photo
Calling
texture.
people you out, yeah,
Of course.
calling you out, yeah.
You know, I'll tell you guys quickly how I this is a little bit of a tangent, but I'll tell you guys quickly like how I came upon you guys to message you about doing this in the first place. I asked my community what are some respectable, successful, safe for work artists that you guys are seeing are really on the grind right now. And you know what? I asked for safe for work because I'm running into this problem where a lot of Newgrounds is adult only, and a lot of the creators create content that's adult only. And I also want to interview them, and I want to get to know what that side of the creative world is like.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
The problem is they don't want to have their voice on the microphone.
Oh, that's so weird. Is it like they want to stay? They don't want like people knowing they draw like super lewd, fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
I believe
I'm pretty sure that's exactly it.
I think that's right. No,
I believe it.
I've gotten replies to my messages. I've gotten multiple. That sounds amazing, but I want to keep my personal life separate from my creative life. And their voice falls into their personal life. And so I can't interview them. And I really want to pick their brain.
Oh man, that is weird. That is actually I've thought about that before, like the idea of like, you know, go to any artist who's like struggling and like trying to stay true to themselves and do artwork that they love and it's just not taking off and they're struggling and you're like, what if I gave you like $10,000 a month to draw like really fucked up porn, but like no one knew you did it? Like, would you do it? You're like, oh my God, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
Oh, I would do it.
It's hard to work on adult stuff.
I didn't even think about it. I would do it immediately.
I don't know. I've worked on adult stuff before, and I don't know. I just couldn't put any passion into it. I didn't enjoy it. It was
What's it
just
like?
running through the.
I'm sitting here listening. What's it like to make that kind of stuff?
I just focused on the process. Like, I don't know. It was like technical work.
Yeah, that's what I would.
You're
imagine.
being very polite right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just I wasn't enjoying working on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
So.
Was it for yourself or was it? Well, I guess it wasn't for yourself, but like, was it for a project or was it for somebody commissioning you with money to do something like that?
Yeah, I would say back when I first got out of college, I did a lot of adult commissions and stuff, and some of them were pretty weird, and there were points when I said, no, I'm not going to do that. But, yeah, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy doing it, and I think in the end, honestly, if you looked at it, it would probably have showed, but...
Yeah.
I had one guy, this is a funny story maybe, I had one guy, this is a long time ago, ask me to paint his wife naked.
Yeah,
and I did. And they both loved it, so
was it like classical and stuff, or was it just like gross?
Yeah, it wasn't real bad. It wasn't like it was like pinup art.
Nice. All right, that's appropriate.
Did he send you a picture and say like,
oh my God,
make this? Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, it was. Anyway, he's like put her in a let's see, what was it? It was like an one of those like Air Force uniforms, like the hat.
Yeah.
Oh,
like a sexy.
Yeah, like it would be on the side of an airplane or something.
Horny propaganda art, right?
Yeah, horny propaganda art, of course.
Score.
wait, Hyptosis. He wasn't like, hey, can you come to my house and paint my wife naked while I like stand in the corner?
No, it wasn't quite like that. That's how I thought it. That's how I thought it was going to be. I was pretty cautious at first, but
that's funny. That's like actually not even that bad.
I think it's like pretty common for artists to just draw nude figures. I don't, right?
Yeah, definitely that. Yeah, for study reasons and things like that.
I think it was just that it was his wife that was weird to me at the time.
Yeah, and he knows you're doing it and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I better not mess this up, or it's gonna piss this dude off.
Yeah, what's up with her teeth? Her teeth look like they're gapped.
Yeah, I really had to, and I was, when he was first talking to me about it, I was like, what if she's, first off, what if he doesn't give me a good picture?
Yeah.
What if they just don't like the picture? basically.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, it all turned out really good, actually.
Wants you to make edits and things.
How do you guys feel about the art portal having a lot of adult content in it? Does it feel like, is it an inclusive environment where you're like, that stuff's fine, I can do my stuff and you do your stuff? Or does it sort of feel like you're trying to put your art in an environment where there's non-professional stuff at the same time? I've always been curious about that.
I actually feel like it's one of the things that's hurting Newgrounds is like allowing that kind of stuff. I know like it has a deep, rich history and all that stuff in Newgrounds. Everyone in middle school who found out about Newgrounds like knows about that stuff. But I think that because I don't actually see it like on the front page too often. Like it's compared to other art sites like DeviantArt or like
On the front page,
yeah, like on the front page of those sites.
because the mods usually try to make an effort not to put adult stuff on the front page. Now, the monthly, the top scoring and everything is different.
Yeah. But like at least it doesn't. You don't see it like front and foremost on the website when you go there. Like some art, like
They
Art
don't
Station,
want it
for
there.
example. Yeah.
Because it upsets advertisers.
Yeah. And I mean, it probably would throw off like some random like people like, oh, hey, I'm going on this website on like my mom's phone or something. Like,
When it comes to the advertisers, that ship has very firmly sailed. The advertisers are already done with Newgrounds. But the fact that you say that you think it's one of the things contributing to hurting Newgrounds, I think that's fascinating. I wonder what you two think about that.
I was under the impression that it was bringing in more traffic.
oh,
Which was
I
good for
don't
it.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, because of the whole exodus from Tumblr, I think.
That is true.
I
That
didn't
is
even think of that.
That is
Yeah.
empirically true. We are getting a lot more people because of more adult content. But I think you could still have the opinion that it's still hurting Newgrounds as a whole, even though it's bringing in more people. I don't know if that's how I feel, but I think that's interesting that that's how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like I said, it definitely has a rich history, and it's a big core part of Newgrounds, and just that freedom to kind of do whatever you want. And I'm not saying like it should be removed, and I think like because of how it's not being advertised on the front page, it's like the right way to do it. But I just don't like if a newcomer sees that easily, it's gonna like deter them from the site, or they might be fearful of like, ooh, I don't want to get caught like looking at this shit by accident. I don't know.
I know that the adult content issue, I have a different opinion of it every day. Every time I think about it, I think something differently. But I do know that on one hand, I really respect Newgrounds as a place where people can put the stuff that they want to put. And it's doing that in a time where no other website really is doing it, or they're cracking down. But on the other side of it, I remember when I released my game recently, and I was really excited about it. And it was on the front page, but it was next to an adult game that was like very clearly like it was a woman moaning, and it said 18 plus.
It's
And I was
just
like,
that.
come on. I was like, I did all of this, and you're going to put me next to that. It was that kind of vibe. But not to say either that project was bad, but Malin, what do you think?
Okay. Well, I do believe if they implemented more features to make that category more distinct, I am on the side of like, I'm glad that people have a place to put that kind of work.
Right.
And also referring back to a question you asked earlier, where you were kind of asking, what can Newgrounds do to make the site more accommodating? Everyone kind of like has their own answer to that, that being informed by what they want most from the site. But I also feel like Newgrounds is a place where the community itself can define that for the website. And it's very unique in that aspect. I feel like if you are part of the community and you believe that adult content is harming this site, I feel like the art mods are right there. You can talk to them. Like, you can very much downvote this stuff. Like, and for the sake of safety, right? It would help to have more regulation. But I feel like if there was enough of the community to kind of like actively organize together and kind of shift like what was visible on this site, I think that would be doable.
I guess I was answering that question more from like a newcomer's perspective. If they were to find the site and then just kind of like look around, click around, and see what this website's about.
I think we all are a bit on the same page where it's like we respect Newgrounds as a place where you don't censor, and therefore we respect its right to be there. Not really our ball game, though.
Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, not for me either. I want to ask one more thing for all of you guys. You guys are successful. You are. That's why I've chosen you, and because I wanted to get to know you better. But I want to know, why you think at this point you are as successful as you are. And I want to hear from all of you.
Yike.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'll go. I don't know that I think I still am successful. I think I was successful. I had like a lot of good years, and then I don't know, the climate online changed, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore, and I wasn't making as much money anymore, and there was a lot more hostility, and I don't know. So
You still get enjoyment out of it?
yeah, I mean, I miss I used to pump out games like crazy, and I miss doing that. Like if I'm looking at my page here, and like in 2012, just on Newgrounds, I released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I did like 12 games.
God damn.
So that's a game a month, and
Yeah.
I really
That's
miss
incredible.
doing that. You know, like it was like a constant creative flow, and I would always do something different every month. I think I was successful then, and I feel like I'm not now. But not like necessarily that it's bad. I just kind of miss the glory days a little bit.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
Just being able to work as a freelance artist on stuff I love, like album covers and video games.
I
Yeah.
respect that. Malling? I saved you for last.
Oh, score.
Score.
I definitely, like I mentioned before, community and collaboration is really important to me. And that means being consistently active in the creative relationships you have. And I think I owe a lot of my success to all of the relationships that I've had through online spaces, especially through Newgrounds. Pretty much all of my prominent projects have been collaborations of some sort. And I think that me and my friends do a great job of kind of building each other up. And I'm incredibly grateful for that. Like, my success is definitely not my own.
I think it's partly yours as well.
Eh,
You're a talented artist.
I mean, when it comes to talent, right? Like, luck informs that. There are like incredibly talented artists that just aren't visible because they don't put themselves out there, right?
Right. Mhm.
And that work, I feel like, does need to be put in because like art can't exist without its community or without its audience. And engagement is incredibly important for those reasons.
Plug time. How can we support you as an artist, and where can we go for your stuff?
Right. So obviously I'm moawling on Newgrounds.
Yes.
You can find me on Twitter as well, which is where I share a lot of my game development stuff and also like smaller pieces. My username on Twitter is moawko, so MOAWKO.
Who's next?
Yeah, you can just follow me on Newgrounds, obviously. It's YakovlevArt on Newgrounds, so YakovlevArt. And my website is probably like the best place to get like all of the art at once, and then all my social media stuff is through there. And my website is just myakovlev.com. So it's MYAKOVLEV.com.
Killer.
If you search for Hyptosis on the internet, you will find me.
Oh, no way.
I'm the only one, I think, and I have been for a long time. And then also, I told my boss I'm working for that I would mention this game that we're working on. It's Sully, a very serious RPG. The webpage for it is sullyrpg.com, SULLYRPG.
Well, guys, I wish you all the best in your artistic endeavors, and if I catch you, any of you, using a single extra layer or anti-alias on your pixel art, I will come, I will find you, and I will kill you.
Please beat me up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Hey, I was trained on wayatthepixel.com. I know to... If you used a paintbrush, don't even come to my house anymore. A big giant thank you to all three artists for joining me in that, and thank you to you for listening. This is a new format, like I said, so if you enjoyed this, or if you didn't enjoy this, I'm excited to hear your feedback. Tweet at me and tag me at Grounds Patrol. Tell me what you think about this, if you want it to never happen again, or if you like that there were more artists at the one time, or if you have any suggestions for future episodes. I'm open to everything. Again, tag me at Grounds Patrol on Twitter. Guys, you can also join the Discord. That's actually another good place to talk about it. You can join at bit.ly/Grounds Patrol. It's a public Discord, and it's growing and growing and growing, and it's getting more fun by the day. So go join us at that, all right? Thank you to Waterflame for the use of his song Below. It is our theme song. You can also follow me on Newgrounds and Twitter at WillKMR. Now remember, this is a semi-weekly podcast now, so the next episode is going to come out on May 29th, 2 Wednesdays from now. Mark your calendar. Until that time comes, stay creative.